Last month marked a watershed in the politics of Malaysia. The ruling National Front recorded its worst election results in 5 decades. It's still in power, but seriously weakened. My guest today personified the power of the ruling party for 22 years. He was Malaysia's Prime Minister and one of the most outspoken leaders in the Muslim world. His critics called him a racist and a dictator. As retirement mellowed, Mahathir Mohamed. Dr. Mahathir Mohamed, welcome to Hard Talk.
Thank you.
Let's start with that election result last month. Does it mark the beginning of the end of Malaysia's ruling party?
Not necessarily, unless no action is taken. Of course, it may result in that. But if proper action is taken, including, of course, the present Prime Minister leaving his seat of power, it may be possible to bring back the Barisan National Front in order to become again a very strong ruling party.
You're saying that Prime Minister Abdullah Badawi has to be kicked out for the ruling party to recover?
Well, not so strong as that. He can step down. I stepped down in my time. It's about time that he steps down, because the result of the election shows clearly that many of the former followers, supporters of the National Front had decided that they would vote for the opposition, even if they didn't like the opposition. They voted for the opposition to send a message to the present government.
See, Prime Minister Abdullah says that you have been one of the curses that have brought him down, because you've been sniping from the sidelines for the last 2 or 3 years.
That may be so. I don't see why I should not criticize wrongdoings by him.
What wrongdoings?
Well, in the first place, the government promises to remove corruption and things like that, but the government is found to be corrupt.
You are tearing your own party apart, though. That is the problem, and that's what many people inside your party believe.
Yeah, sometimes it may be necessary. I told people I'm a doctor. If I find one leg becoming gangrenous, I remove it.
Now, he has said, Prime Minister Abdullah, that he will go eventually, but is your message to him that he has no time? He must go now?
He must go now, because he will take time to revive the party for the next election.
Isn't the truth of what we see in Malaysia today that the real discontent isn't so much with Prime Minister Abdullah, it is with the system and the ideology that you bequeathed to your country?
Well, the system and the ideology had been there for the last 50 years. It's worked very well. We had always won elections. People always supported us. And the country has done very well during that 50 years with that system.
But the indications are, and the opposition succeeded by saying to the public, we no longer want this racially defined system inside Malaysia. And it was the racial definition that was the platform upon which you succeeded in running Malaysia for 22 years.
I think that's wishful thinking on the part of foreign critics. But the fact is that this election result was due to disaffection on the part of the ruling party's supporters with the present leadership.
Well, let me just quote to you the words of the new head of Penang State. And let's not forget, these results saw 5 very big and wealthy states go to the opposition. The new head of Penang State, Mr. Lim Guan Eng, he says, we want a state administration that is free from corruption and cronyism. We are here to build a Penang State for all. You didn't build a Malaysia for all, did you?
I did. If you look at Malaysia today, everybody is has enjoyed a very good life there. They have become very prosperous. Malaysia was one of the fastest growing countries in the world. And if you look at the different races, you can find that they all benefited from that government. So it is, of course, necessary for opposition parties to make remarks like that.
But they're not making it up, are they? Let's look at your new economic policy, which you pursued for so long. It favours ethnic Malays in so many different ways, from public sector appointments to university places to advantageous acquisition of stocks, discounts on housing. I don't know where to stop. There are so many different ways in which you ran an unequal system.
No, this was a policy which was initiated by my predecessors. It was necessary to...
You ran it for 22 years. You had ample opportunity to change it.
Yes, I had ample opportunity to implement in a way that will correct imbalances that existed in Malaysia since the British days. And unless these imbalances are corrected, there's bound to be another racial riot as happened in 1969.
But the point is, 80,000 Indians, for example, were on the streets protesting long and loud last November because they are no longer prepared to live with the racial division that you set in the stone.
Why now? Why not during my time? They were quite free to demonstrate. Many of the people who disagreed with me demonstrated.
Many of the people who disagreed with you, I'm afraid, ended up in prison.
Who?
Hundreds of them.
Hundreds
Read every
of
Amnesty
them.
International and Human Rights Watch report for the years in which you were in power.
Western press, the problem is that you make up these stories and then you take it as the truth. It's not the truth. Tell me, who are the hundreds of people who ended up in prison?
I'll discuss human rights a little bit later. I just want, before we get distracted from this question of racism in Malaysia, I just want to put to you this final point. Anwar Ibrahim says that he is going to push, and of course he, your longtime friend who became your political enemy, he is going to push for a colourblind Malaysia where affirmative action is open to all who need help.
Well, there's opportunism for him. Now that he's out of the government, he was in the government for a long time, he never made any complaint, he never did anything to...
well, he certainly made a complaint when you locked him up.
Well, that was not the reason why he was locked up. He was accused of sodomy, he was accused of abuse of power, he was tried in court 9 months, and he was defended by 9 lawyers, and he was found guilty. I didn't throw him into...
Trumped up charges says not just Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, but I've been looking through the record, the Canadian government, the White House, the